Alright guys, is this finally the month where Legendary Micaiah happens? I mean, look, she's literally holding a staff in this art. That is a tease that I must see by the end of the month. And considering Ashera is also here at the end of the month, I think it would be just right. But yeah, let's talk about the calendar.
Let the lesson begin.
What's up guys, Akariss here, bringing you another Fire Emblem Heroes video. Today's video is going to talk about our August event calendar. So yeah, I mean this is probably going to be one of the more important months of the year, definitely, considering CYL is going to happen mid-month. We have Reginn's Spark banner at the end, and potentially a very interesting legendary. And of course I will cover the legendary as it's released, give my thoughts on Twitter, make a video on it, adjust rankings and such. If you've been watching some of my previous videos the past few days, you'll know that I've been talking about legendaries and how I feel about them, especially with the weapon refines, the skill refines, and the dual skills, which have definitely changed the dynamic of legendary heroes lately. Now, there's some things in this video that I'm not going to talk about, and that's going to be the just some of the events like Roku Sieges or Hero's Journey, because we kind of know what to expect out of that. Lost Lore, there's not really much to talk about there. But I will, I'm also not going to talk about double special heroes, not this time at least. I feel like we kind of, like, it's not going to be as important unless we have like dual Lif on there, I think, or Henriette, but Henriette's, I think, confirmed in October, so it's not going to be here, and therefore I'm just not going to cover it in this. But if you feel free to, I mean, let me know in the comments if there's something there that you think would be really interesting from them coming up. So yeah, we're going to talk about CYL and such. Legendary, what to kind of do with like your resources for this upcoming month, if nothing else. So finally, before we begin, if you enjoy this content, smash the like button, sub if you haven't already, social media in the description below if you love the content. Patreon is also there. Thank you for doing what you do, guys. Much love. Alright, first up is the weekly revivals. Now, I think these are more important than usual because we've had a more recent like demote into 4-star focus. Credit to some of these arts and designs on Fabian, I think. The link for his channel will be in the YouTube description. Good art, good design. Thank you for making it visual. So yeah, weekly revivals is where I'm going to start because now these are a little bit more relevant with the demotes into 4 stars. Focus, we have some better fodder, and you may have potential merge projects there too. As you can see from the graphic here, the first time we'll see something like this is Flora, Ophelia, and Nina. So something like Ophelia, for example, has Rally Up Attack, or just a very good one-off for basically PvE content in general. On top of that, we have Tibern, Nysala, and Leanne after. So as you can see, pretty solid stuff to think about. Weekly revivals are actually pretty good for trying to get some of this stuff, like at least fodder or potential merge projects, because of 4% rates on focus, and there's only 3 of them. If you come in with a couple hundred orbs, you can definitely expect to probably pick up some copies, and they're definitely something to think about or plan ahead for. But this is going to be a fairly competitive month, so just wanted to bring to your attention. When we cover future calendars, I'll try to keep you guys up to date on some of this stuff. Next up is the skill banners. Again, same idea. Skill banners are going to use like newer characters, where weekly revival uses like the older ones. And with the with the skill banners here, we can expect some of the more recent units and potentially picking up their fodder, or potentially just like merge projects if they're your type of thing. So looking at this list here, you can feel free to pause the video, see some potential candidates with what applies, and piece together some of the stuff. I'm not going to try to like guess these banners because honestly there's just a lot of candidates that could be new, and even if they throw in some old stuff. But take a look at this, and hopefully that makes you think about, oh, maybe Shinnon comes back as Colas. Even though he's come back like many times, he could potentially come with like the LOL skills banner, which is there. A lot of this stuff does last at least a week or two, and you should definitely give it a little bit of time there to think about whether you commit to it, see some overlap between banners and such. Always good to be smart about your resources. Next up, we're going to have CYL, so there's going to be a Fed channel with that before it drops, and I'm definitely going to talk about the Fed channel and the CYL heroes, how I think they'd be important. A new feature I'm going to add, actually with the help of my Patreon community, as I'm going to add a poll and see how you guys yeah, you guys, and this is not, you don't have to be a Patreon sub, but definitely go check out the Patreon. And I'm gonna ask for like a poll and whether you intend to summon on these banners or not. Any future banners going forward, legendary, CYL and such, and then I'm gonna share it in these videos, just to, you know, create a sort of community aspect to it. Like, I'm going to commit tons of orbs to CYL, for example, or I'm just going to use tickets, or you know, my merge project is something like this, and I'll share the comments and some of that. So this is a pretty solid idea I got, and I think it'd be a good idea to share it with you guys, just to give you guys like a group perspective on how people approach certain banners. So look forward to that. As for the CYL units themselves, I don't really know what to expect, but I definitely hope it's not as boring as the previous year, because we have like Gatekeeper, which has like never been a combat unit, so hopefully he's not just like a Blue Lance Infantry, because as we know from last year's Blue Lance Infantry unit, yeah. but that mostly comes from competition and in a certain armor that's not an armor, right? Yeah. So I'm looking forward to this. The free one, like the free unit, could be definitely meta impactful if people choose the right thing, but we'll talk about it when we get there. Next up is what we are confirmed to have for the upcoming legendary banner. So these are our reruns. Red and blue don't look that interesting, to be honest, already. Like Lilina sharing with Sothis kind of ruins that already. Sothis is really outdated and probably one of the first units that should get like a Mythic Hero remix at this point, because she needs an upgrade pretty bad. Maybe in Arena she's pretty good, but definitely not for AR defense, where apparently she's placed. Naga sharing with no one, which could mean we would get a blue legendary, but I'm doubtful because Naga again is kind of old and most people have either merged her up completely or just aren't interested in such an old mythic. So if I was to take a educated guess here, I'm pretty certain that our new legendary will end up being a Shera, sharing with a Shera, and possibly even putting something like Fallen Edel there, and that would make that colorless of this upcoming month pretty good. And considering CYL would have been in this month as well, that would really get people spending or potentially dumping almost all their orbs. I personally don't think I will be committing to this like legendary banner at all, but I would like to see a Shera share with Corrin or potentially Mila. And that would do pretty well for me in a future legendary banner. And in the meantime, I'm just going to be saving my orbs, and this really doesn't really affect me. Green looks pretty good as well. For those of you that are still merging up legendary Edelgard, Thrasir is not too bad, although she is kind of outclassed by Duma now, which is hilarious. But generally speaking, Thrasir is okay because the defense buff is nice, and that green roll as a nuker isn't terrible. So as I mentioned, literally in the beginning of the video, I am looking forward to hopefully as being Micaiah's legendary debut. I think she's like one of the few protagonists that are literally not a legendary yet. So it just makes most sense that we get her at this time. Yeah, I mean, this art shows her with a staff. Technically with a tome too, but at this point, colorless Micaiah with like the first staff legendary would be very fitting. It makes complete sense for her, so that's totally what I would expect. If it doesn't happen here, it probably happens later. She could definitely be like an Earth legendary. I think that's where they would put her, probably. So yeah, why not? Okay, and finally, the last thing I want to mention here is the rerun on Reginn's banner, which was voted in. So this is a very impactful banner because it will likely increase the score thresholds and rankings needed to hit maybe top 1k or top 3k for those of you that play Ether raids, because Reginn is going to push that threshold up as people spark and grab additional copies from this banner, including myself. So a guarantee of spark is always nice, and this is definitely a solid place to do it. I'm definitely going to be sparking Reginn because I want to make sure I keep up with the pace of merges of other people adding merges here. And yeah, like this is good value because anytime you have a mythic that isn't, or a legendary that isn't on a legendary mythic banner, the rates for getting them here is better than there if you're strictly sniping. Now, of course, in scenarios where you have really good shares, like let's say when Plumeria, Reginn, and Lina were all sharing, that's pretty solid because it doesn't really matter which red you get there, and that's like really good rates of getting those 5 stars. But in the case where you just want Reginn, this is definitely a banner to save, consider, and potentially invest fully into if you really want to push up your Astra season rankings and give yourself more leeway either through defense or, you know, just mistakes you might make through the gameplay. I think that's pretty much it, guys, for this. One very notable thing I want to talk about, though, is with the debut of CYL5 this coming month, we're likely going to get a BST increase as well, which will definitely push up the arena score thresholds as well. And that's something important to think about. So the free Grand Hero battle here that we get with the CYL units could be very important, because that could be the new step up in should I invest into these new arena units and therefore keep up with those score thresholds as well. If you care about those rewards and the rankings, then this is very relevant to you. But even if you don't, it's something to still think about or potentially invest into, because the more rewards you get, the more rewards get back into you, and then you can invest into potentially more favorites. In my case, I just get a bunch of rewards back, and then sometimes arena lines up, and you know, I can invest into Oboro, for example, or I can invest into Fur, who, you know, these are like characters I really enjoyed using from their respective games, and that just kind of like fills out my roster quite a bit, and then I can just use them in different content. It feels pretty nice. So getting those rewards, especially in Ether raids, actually, like Grails cannot be bought, and getting tons of those and then putting them into your characters that you really want to, more of them, is always a great feeling. Doesn't feel like I'm behind. That's it, folks. There's definitely more to talk about with this if you wanted to, maybe like double special heroes or the upcoming like Ice and Flame number 3, Tempest Trials, and those seasonals if you want to kind of guess around what's going on there. And I guess Hall of Forms as well, like that's gonna happen. But honestly, I've been pretty disappointed with Hall of Forms, and I'm totally expecting just Bridal units like Bridal Tanith, Bridal Sigrun, and who knows, Bridal Sanaki and stuff. And it's just gonna be a complete flop again, because like lately I'm still holding on to my Form of Soul, the free one, and I just haven't really got either a favorite, which is pretty funny, or a really good character that I really wanted to invest in to save tons of orbs. Neither of those scenarios have really happened for me yet, so I'm hoping this may be the case, but at this point I'm pretty disappointed with Hall of Forms. That's all, guys. Thank you for watching as always. Smash the like button, sub if you haven't already. Love you all, and see you in the next one. Peace.
It's over.